Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. I've got one of my dwarf jades, or Portulacaria Afra. First, I'll just talk about how I came upon having to do some work to this guy. It was like 4 or 5 nights ago. I had this night blooming cactus that blooms. I like to get some pictures of it. It starts really coming out at sunset. And then in here somewhere, I'll show you a picture of, I think that's around 9 or 10 is when it looks about the best. As soon as the sun comes up the next day, they shrivel up. But I'm out there in the dark, and I'm trying to get my pictures and trying to make my way. And it was one of these things of where I'm making a step with my left foot. I remembered that this plant was sitting right there. And so I went to go move my left foot. I missed it with my left foot, lost my balance, and pretty much crushed it with my right foot. Kicked it right out of the pot. All the substrate came out of it and everything. The wild thing is about these plants is that it isn't even showing any signs of that yet. I actually have had it just sitting there in that same spot. All the substrate gone, is just sitting there just hanging out in the pot. Still looks good and healthy. It made me realize that I need to repot this, and I just kind of got to thinking, man, it's been a long time since I've done a video with one of my ports. I remember this, I think this was one, I have like a huge bulb pan out there full of cuttings. And I think this was one of the ones I harvested from it. And I had some of the cuttings sitting in there kind of laying sideways. And I remember even when I repotted this, I said something in the video along the lines of, I don't really know what kind of a tree I'm going to make out of it. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and let it get pot down and build it better in the Nabari. And you can probably see here where it was starting to get some roots draping down even from there compared to where it was before. And really, the whole point of me letting it grow and allowing the Nabari to shape up was kind of working, had I not kicked it over. So now it's just time for me to do a little something with it. Oh, now all of a sudden there, it won't set back in there. Oh, geez, been sitting there for days, and now all of a sudden I can't keep it standing up. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually, there's a few of these that I know are just way too long. They got to go. I'm also just going to kind of prune some of this long growth. This would actually be another good time. If you can see these, this is good, healthy growth. But the next plant I bring in here, I'm going to show you what good, healthy growth should look like when it gets enough light. I actually had this sitting in a little bit of a low light area. It gets a lot of wintertime light, which is one of the reasons why I have some of my succulents sitting there. But once summertime hits, it really starts getting quite a bit less. And you can see it's growing, super long internodes on it. And if you notice the green stem there, just kind of keep that in mind. And when I get this next plant in here, I'll show you the difference. And again, like even here, both these branches are crossing each other. And as I've been kind of looking, trying to decide what it is I want to keep, I was actually thinking I might cut both of them off. I'm going to leave that little one on there for now. Now I got to get some of this stuff over here. It keeps toppling over on me now. Yeah, I am going to take this off. And sometimes as I look and I think I got to do something drastic just to get going here, I was thinking about taking all of that off, all of that off, all of that off, and just leaving that. And then of course I was thinking about taking that off, and that off, and that off, and leaving just this little curve here, because it'd be something a little more interesting than all these straight up ones. And the more I look at it, I think that might be the move there, is to take this long straight piece off there. I thought about taking this one off too, but I think for right now I'm just going to leave that on there just for some guaranteed growth. part of my experiment, or not even experiment, but some of the stuff that I shot in the winter that I lost. I was going to kind of show how you don't really need cut paste on a succulent, how the wound will heal itself. That's the older part of the wound. That's where I just cut that off. This will eventually just blacken up and get rejected, and I'll just kind of show you a spot like that on the next tree I bring in. And for this one, I don't even think I'm going to get my normal repotting set going here. Ports really don't enjoy having the roots messed with too much, and I don't really see a reason to right here, as it really had just barely even started reaching the edges of the pot there. And they do really well when they get pot bound. And in that case there, with very little root pruning, I won't even protect it from rain. I won't water it. Generally speaking, with a succulent, if you do any root work at all, you should let the roots dry out. I'll just put it right back out in the sun. Actually, I'm not going to put it back in the same place, because I can tell now it really wasn't getting enough light there. I'm going to go ahead and put it out in the full sun like I had the rest of my ports. All right, next up we got this guy here. And before we go any further, I'm going to show you what good healthy growth looks like when they have enough light. Wow, that's actually a really good spot to show that right there. Hopefully that comes in focus. If you look on that side of the leaf, or I'm sorry, of the stem, it's actually green. And then when you look over here on this side, it's red. And I guess from where this was sitting right here, I'm gonna guess that it was getting all the sun on this side. And that's just the underside of it. But you look at all these nice tight internodes on there. Internodes meaning between each leaf, there's only so much room. Compared to that last tree I just had in here, I do have this one sitting out in plenty of light. Hopefully I can dig up. I was just looking, I thought I had more pictures of this guy growing up than I did, but I'm going to try to include a couple in here. The last time I pruned it and did a video on it, there was I don't know if you guys can see this chop scar right there. There was a big cloud of foliage that was kind of coming out on top. And what I was doing is I was trying to maintain that and trying to just kind of keep these as, you know, branches down here. And then this was one of the trees that I made the video on early in the winter. It kept, first off, this is the pot that actually my pukin tea came in. Shall we say just cloud, or it was almost like a helmet of foliage up here, was getting so heavy it kept getting blown out of the pot. We really get windy around here in the well, year-round, but in the wintertime, sometimes we just get some steady winds where they're not part of a storm. It's just windy all the time. But it kept getting blown out of the pot, and so what I was going to do is I was going to chop that off and then just kind of show how the rest of it came in. Would have made a really good video if I hadn't lost the files, but I did lose the files. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead, and first off, I got this right there is where that chop was. Hasn't quite done the blacken off and fall off thing, but you can see with the succulent there, it's no real problem with rotting or anything like that. All right, and it's shaping up pretty nicely. I'm imagining Funny, as small as this tree is, I'm imagining when I go back and watch the video, I'm going to see all kinds of things I should have seen and should have clipped off while I was here, but nothing wrong with letting them grow for a little while either. I was considering putting a little bit of wire on here to kind of separate those pads a little bit more. But I think I'll leave it like this for now. This, I've always thought about this one as being the front. Now that was also when I used to have the huge piece of foliage coming off there, which was coming out this way some too. I may switch it over to this side. I don't really like the way that is kind of poking you in the eye there, but it is definitely, you know, you can see here that it's definitely leaning that way, and you would like to have a tree leaning into the view or something, but we'll just see how things go. All right, and the last one I'm going to look at today is this one. This is the only port I've ever used wire on. This branch here was the main reason I wanted to use wire, is this was just kind of coming straight up. It's the first branch, and then it was overcoming, or actually, you know, growing higher than the next branch up from it. And so I tried to correct that. Generally speaking, I mean, this wire actually has been on, I say generally speaking, hold off on the water and the branches become a little more flexible to put the wire on. This wire has actually been on close to 8 months. A little bit longer, I think, than maybe I should have. I can see out at the end of some of the branches is cutting a little more than I would have thought and or hoped. I definitely won't be unwinding it. I'll definitely cut it off. Remember, succulents, they will snap. And once you've snapped a branch, I mean, it's just done for. There's no putting it back. But I'm gonna go ahead and do a little pruning first. Hopefully you guys can actually see that. Let me give you a little look at the back of the tree too. Before I get started too much, you can see all these new growths have the red stem that I was talking about, when you can tell that they're getting enough light. One of the things I have started to kind of learn and just kind of get used to with my ports anyway is, you know, sometimes as I prune, I mean, like even this one here, I could cut it off like that, but it's almost coming straight up, which almost makes me want to cut the whole branch off. But if I do too much like that, if I get in too close and think about each and every branch that I'm doing too much, I wind up cutting almost everything off. So sometimes I try to come in and just kind of put my blinders on and cut everything back. And then just kind of slowly go through and see if I missed any of the truly rule-breaking branches. I mean, I don't, definitely when it comes to the hobby, I don't follow each and every rule, but there are general pruning guidelines you need to follow. You don't want anything that looks ridiculous or that's going to be unhealthy for the tree. All right, let me take a pause there. I did want to cut a lot of that growth off before I hit the wire, just simply because I couldn't see it in a few places.